see what we can do with Kick here and Twitch. Kick, I have to change the name, of course. And the thing. The category, I guess it is. Okay, so this is a podcast. Live stream. Just chatting IRL. And esoteric. Okay, so we've got that going. I wish I would have done that before I actually got the stream started, so I apologize. And YouTube is up and running. Testing out the audio now. It's working out great. X is as much. Oh, yeah. Sorry, got Kick going again. Accidentally turned it off. I cannot believe that freaking they pulled that crap. Esoteric Agenda. It gets on my nerves because they do it every single time. Okay, so create. Okay. Well, hold on. First, put the frickin' stream code in, man. Stop and start over again. Yeah. Yeah. Well, X isn't getting streamed. Sorry. It's just retarded. And now let's start. Or I've got to switch the name for Twitch now. Just chatting. The English live stream podcast, IRL, and just chatting in for tags. hit start. Oh, I see what happened. I I put the RTM in twice, I guess, on there. So I didn't delete what was supposed to be on there. You hit play. Okay, it's good. So let me go into X Pro real quick and see if that's actually, but I'm not sure. Looks like everything is up and going. Now I have to hit live on Rumble. We're going to be doing with Rumble Premium tonight. I'm using the ingest server, or the ingest RTMP on there to do it for just Rumble Studios. So it should be going good there. So basically what I have to do is yeah, here we go. It looks Esoteric Agenda needs to be posted. I just had to double check, make sure. Frame Esoteric Agenda. All right. So we do have YouTube or X also going good too. So let me get this all straightened out. Check the audio, make sure it sounds good. Just go. Okay, so I am going to hit live stream here in a minute. First, first I want to use the bathroom, and I will be right back. So give me a little time here, guys. I am going to mute this out. Put some Alright, I am back. Now I have to go in and open up thing and go live. Then I will mute out again and get everything set up for premium. I'm going to be doing premium here in a minute on Rumble. So takes 30 seconds after the stream starts to get the option set up. It's pretty interesting how it is. Alright, so it looks as though we are up and ready to go. I went ahead and got everything set up on there. So now I'm just going to go ahead and do my countdown and we can get the show going. So here I'm going to do a countdown for editing purposes. It makes it easier for me to know where I want to start the show. So you'll hear me do my countdown and then get ready for the show that I'm doing. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, now. Hello everybody and welcome back to the wonderful world of weirdness. Today is going to be I'm going to bring you another episode of Esoteric Agenda. I'm Roger Hanson and I'll be your host for today. And with all of that being said, I'm going to go over a little bit of what we're going to be talking about today. Today we're going to continue with Astonis. We're going to get into a little bit about love magic. And we're going to start going back over some of the stuff that we've already covered and things of that nature. This is going to be I'm really looking forward to actually doing these episodes because this is some of the stuff that I've been wanting to get back into now that I am able to live stream a little bit better than what I did back when I first started this. You can find some of the older content that I've had for Esoteric Agenda in the 15-minute clips that I have been posting up on the wonderful world of weirdness on both Rumble and on YouTube. Feel free to check those out. They're older clips, but it took me a while before I could actually do any new live streams and get it going. So this is me actually being able to get this together and do whatever I need to do to present it better than what I did the first time when I tried to do it years ago. So with that being said, I would also like to say thank you for watching. Also look forward to having future episodes of The Cut come out too, which is going to be pretty good. I'm going to be doing another changeover with new episodes because I only do videos in series, and each year I usually do about 12 episodes each year for the topics that I'm doing. I also want to say that this is my first episode of anything from the wonderful world of weirdness on Rumble Premium. I hope you guys enjoy. If you don't, just don't tell me. Just leave me alone. I can't handle the pressure. So with all that being said, let me go ahead and get on with the reading. So here we go. Astonis is often credited in ancient and late antiquity, so, antique, no, antique sources, with the introduction of or popularization of magic technique, magical arts into the Hellenistic world. The term magic technique itself, meaning art of the magi, implied more than mere sleight of hands or superstition. It referred to a sophisticated and hieratic system of ritual knowledge, believed to originate from Persian priesthoods, particularly the Magi, and adapted by Greco-Roman intellectuals into a complex synthesis of occult practice, cosmology, and spiritual ascent. Astonis presented in these traditions as a legendary Persian magus was imagined to have brought with him not only the practices of alchemy and early chemistry, but also a body of magical knowledge that dealt with controlling spiritual entities, commanding natural forces, and deciphering divine signs. The magical arts attributed to Astonis encompasses a wide spectrum of practices, ranging from protective rites and banishing spells to summoning and compelling celestial or chthonic beings. These arts relied heavily on precise ritual elements. Timing was central, and invocations often performed under particular celestial alignments, especially the phases of the moon or planetary configurations. Names of power, often translatable or derived from ancient Near East or Egyptian roots, were inscribed on amulets, stones, or spoken aloud in ceremonial tone. Astonis was said to have known and taught the importance of secret names and syllables that could command spirits or influence the elemental world. Among the key areas of magic technique attributed to Astonis was necromancy, divination, and astrological manipulation. Necromancy was believed to be one way of gaining hidden knowledge by contacting the spirits of the dead or accessing the shadowy realms between life and death. In some texts, Astonis is credited with rituals that open portals to these realms, sometimes using blood, fire, or aromatic resins to attract disembodied intelligences. His knowledge also included elaborate systems of divination through dreams, oracles, scrying devices, or casting of lots, each of which was thought to reflect the cosmic order if performed correctly. Another major aspect of his magical arts was the use of talisman and sigils. Astonis was portrayed as someone who understood how to charge objects with astral forces. These talismans, often made of metals or stones chosen for their planetary affinities, were engraved with complex symbols and used for protection, healing, fertility, or destructive power. Preparation of such items followed exact ritual formulas and required the practitioner to be ritually pure and attuned to divine energies. What distinguishes the magic technique associated with Astonis is its fusion of physical and spiritual techniques. Magic, in his framework, was not mere manipulation of the material world, but a harmonization of the human soul with the greater cosmic order. The adept had to undergo personal transformation, ritual purifications, mental concentration, and even ecstatic states to effectively participate in these rites. This view was later echoed in the Hermetic and Neoplatonic schools, which treated magic as a sacred science that revealed the hidden interconnection between all levels of reality. There are also references to a later text, a magical book attributed to Astonis, grimoires, or manuals containing recipes for invocations, incantations, and diagrams of power. Though none of these texts survive in his name, their echoes can be seen in works like the Great Magical Papyri, Picatrix, and Arabic treatises on occult science. Astonis's legacy thus becomes part of the archetypal magician scholar tradition, in which knowledge of nature, the stars, spirits, and sacred words are all wielded with discipline and reverence. The magic technique associated with Astonis represents one of the earliest models of learned magic in the Western tradition, an integrated system where ritual, cosmology, and personal transformation converge. It profoundly influenced the development of later magical systems in late antiquity, the medieval Islamic world, the Renaissance, leaving a lasting mark on the esoteric traditions of both East and West. The occult pharmacopoeia refers to the collection of medicinal, magical, and psychoactive substances used within ancient religious and esoteric traditions for ritual, healing, spiritual transformation, and communion with divine forces. In the context of figures like Astonis, the broader tradition of magic technique, this pharmacopoeia was not merely practical medicine, but a sacred science rooted in the belief that plants, minerals, and compounds carried inherent spiritual properties. These substances were often prepared and administered within the framework of ritual and cosmological alignment. The pharmacopoeia included a wide variety of materials: herbs, resins, roots, metals, stones, animal parts, and sometimes human-derived ingredients such as blood or bone. Each of these had symbolic and energetic correspondences linked to planets, elements, deities, or spiritual realms. Practitioners believed that when these materials were gathered under the right astrological conditions and ritually prepared, they could act as bridges between the human and divine, body and spirit, matter and idea. Among the most significant uses of the cult pharmacopoeia was in rites of purification and consecration. Substances like sulfur, salt, myrrh, frankincense, and niter were burned or dissolved in water to cleanse sacred spaces, tools, and people. These rituals served not just to sterilize or deodorize, but to ritually transform the subtle energies of an area or initiate. Fumigations were also used to ward off malevolent spirits or attract divine presences. The aroma released a burning certain resin. The aroma released in burning certain resins or plants was believed to be pleasing to gods and spirits, or to open psychic senses in the participants. There was also a strong association with healing and transformation. Plants like mandrake, henbane, hellebore, and opium were used with caution and precision, not only for their medicinal effects, but for their mind-altering or soul-revealing properties. These were often employed in initiation rites or oracular ceremonies, where altered states of consciousness were required to receive visions or divine messages. Some of these preparations were psychoactive, including trance or dreamlike states. They were regarded as sacred sacraments rather than drugs in the modern recreational sense. In magical practices, materials were carefully chosen for their sympathies and symbolic resonance. For instance, iron might be used in protection talismans. Copper, aligned with Venus, was used in love charms. Gold, associated with the sun, was considered spiritually pure and used in objects meant to draw divine favor. The process of preparing magical ointments, inks, or elixirs involved both physical and spiritual precision. Reciting incantations during a mixing, maintaining ritual purity, and observing sacred silence or fasting before use. The cult pharmacopoeia also extended into alchemical practices. Here, substances were transformed not only for physical benefit, but as allegories for spiritual processes. Metals were purified or fused in ways believed to mirror the elevation of the soul. The refinement of matter became a ritual act of divination and inner refinement. Astonis and others in his tradition would have understood these materials not as inert matter, but as living forms with divine potential, waiting to be awakened. In the broader Greco-Roman, Persian, and Egyptian magical world, the pharmacopoeia was a hidden science, guarded by initiates, often encoded in riddles or symbols, passed down in secret texts or oral teachings. Its use was considered both powerful and dangerous. Misuse or improper ritual could bring spiritual contamination or divine punishment. Thus, those who practiced with the pharmacopoeia were expected to undergo moral, physical, and intellectual training to handle these forces responsibly. Astonis's ideas concerning a divine spark or logos reflect a deep-rooted belief in the presence of a hidden divine essence within all things. A spiritual core that connected the material world to higher, unseen realities. Although his writings do not survive in full, and much of what is attributed to him comes from later Greco-Roman sources in the Hermetic and alchemical traditions, he is frequently associated with early concepts of the Logos, not merely as speech or reason, but as the divine ordering principle that permeates the cosmos. In Astonis's framework, the divine spark was seen as the animated essence within matter. This spark was the reason why transformation, whether physical or spiritual, was possible. Metals could be purified because they retained a latent divine perfection, and the human soul could ascend because it carried within it a fragment of the divine source. This idea harmonizes with later Gnostic and Neoplatonic thinking, where the soul was considered a fallen or veiled portion of a higher, pure reality trapped within a corrupt world, but capable of returning to its origin through knowledge and ritual purification. The Logos in Astonis's likely interpretation was not only the means by which the cosmos was structured, but also the force that allowed communication between the realms. The divine Logos was reflected in nature through correspondence and sympathies, patterns in herbs, stars, metals, and bodily humors. Understanding the Logos meant learning the language of nature. Thus, the magician or alchemist could work in harmony with the divine will rather than against it. For Astonis, to awaken the divine spark within oneself involved rigorous discipline, physical purification, mental concentration, and often the use of sacred rituals and materials from the occult pharmacopoeia. This process was not unlike refining gold from base ore. Just as matter required multiple stages of calcination, dissolution, and distillation, so too did the soul require testing, cleansing, and enlightenment before it could rise. The presence of the divine spark in all things also meant that the boundary between sacred and profane was not fixed, but could be crossed through proper ritual and understanding. Every transformation in alchemy, turning lead into gold, separating the subtle from the gross, was mirrored in spiritual terms. To Astonis, the true goal of the alchemist was not simply to change the outside world, but to reawaken and amplify the divine logos within the self and the substance. This divine spark was often thought to be obscured or corrupted by the heaviness of matter or the distraction of the senses. Thus, much of Astonis's esoteric practices likely centered in stripping away illusion and impurity. The role of the magus then was that of a midwife of spirit, guiding the spark towards realization, using rites, symbols, and knowledge passed through initiatory traditions. While Astonis's operation at the edge of while Astonis operated at the edge of myth and history, the ideas attributed to him played a key role in shaping later magical and alchemical systems, where the divine logos was the key to unlocking transformation, both in nature and in the soul. This legacy is that of a thinker who saw no separation between divine wisdom and practical technique, and who understood the cosmos as a living, breathing network fused with sacred order. Dream incubation is another spiritual and psychological practice used to induce significant or revelatory dreams, often for healing, prophecy, or divine guidance. Rooted in the belief that dreams are a channel or rooted in the belief that dreams are a channel through which divine forces, spirits, or inner truths communicate with the conscious mind. Dream incubation was a structured ritual involving both preparation and intention. Its origins trace back to early civilizations such as Mesopotamia, Egypt, Greece, and parts of the Near East, where temples and sanctuaries were established specifically for this purpose. In the classical world, one of the most well-documented forms of dream incubation took place in the temples of Asclepius, the Greco-Roman god of healing. Worshippers seeking cures would participate in a process known as enkoimesis, enkoimesis. That's ENKOIMESIS. A ritual sleep in a sacred space, typically after a period of fasting, prayer, purification, and offerings. Before entering the abaton, or the designated sleeping chamber, participants would often bathe, dress in clean garments, and sometimes abstain from sexual activity or specific foods to purify the body and mind. During the incubation, they would sleep on animal skins or within proximity to the god's statue, hoping for a dream in which the god or his agents would appear and provide a cure or destruction. These dreams were not interpreted as mere symbolic expressions, but as direct encounters with divine or supernatural beings. Priest or temple attendants often recorded the dream experience and interpreted them through ritual oracles or codified knowledge. Inscriptions found at sites like Epidaurus and Pergamon document many cases where people claim to have been healed or spiritually transformed after such dreams, lending a testimonial weight to the practice. Beyond healing, dream incubation was used for divination and guidance in the Near East, including among some Mesopotamian and Hebrew traditions. Dreams were believed to carry messages from gods or celestial entities. Incantations, amulets, and specific rituals could be used to invite prophetic dreams. The Egyptian practice included appeals to gods like Thoth, or Thoth, or Thoth, whichever name you want to call them, or Bez, inscribed onto stelae or charms to elicit wisdom through the dream world. The incubation process involved a state of heightened receptivity. Practitioners often slept in liminal spaces, physically and metaphorically. These spaces, temples, caves, deserts, or tombs, were thought to be threshold zones between the material world and the unseen. The goal was to loosen the boundaries between the waking and the dreaming self, enabling the dreamer to move more freely between realms. Certain herbs or narcotics might also have been used in some traditions to induce a deeper sleep or visionary state. In a more esoteric or mystical interpretation, dream incubation was seen not merely as communication with a god, but as an entry into the collective spiritual unconsciousness, where archetypes and divine patterns reside. The dream was a vessel for receiving gnosis, or sacred knowledge. Whether the dream took the form of symbolic vision, or direct communication, or a sequence of transformation or transformative imagery, its power lay in its luminality arising from the threshold of sleep and consciousness, embodying truths inaccessible in waking life. Later mystical and hermetic traditions preserved the incubation technique in altered forms. Alchemists, Sufi mystics, Christian ascetics sometimes use dreams as tools for inner revelations. They adapted the practice for self-knowledge, understanding that dreams could reflect the soul's condition or foreshadow spiritual trials and ascensions. In modern times, dream incubation has re-emerged in depth psychology and certain forms of dream work, especially Jungian analysis, where dreams are treated as messages from the unconscious. Practitioners may use visualization, affirmations, journaling, or guided meditation before sleep to prompt specific dream content. The ancient premise remains: the dream world is a realm where inner and outer worlds converge, and when approached with reverence and intention, it may reveal truths, healing, or transformation beyond the reach of rational thought. Trance states are altered condition of consciousness in which the normal waking state of awareness is suspended or significantly modified. These states can occur spontaneously or be deliberately induced through ritual meditation, rhythmic stimuli, or other methods. Trance is often characterized by a narrowing of attention, reduced sense of external awareness, heightened suggestibility, altered perception of time, and in many cases, vivid internal imagery or a sense of connection with something beyond the self. It has been utilized throughout history in religious, spiritual, magical, and healing contexts across diverse cultures. In many indigenous and shamanic traditions, trance is a fundamental tool for entering the spirit world or interacting with invisible forces. A shaman or ritual specialist might enter trance through drumming, chanting, dancing, fasting, or the ingestion of psychoactive plants. In this state, the practitioner believes they can travel to other realms, communicate with spirits, perform healings, or retrieve knowledge. The experience is not merely symbolic. It is lived as it is lived as real, with sensory and emotional intensity akin to waking life. In ancient Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Mediterranean world, trance was integral in religious ritual and prophecy. Oracles such as the Pythia at Delphi entered trance states, possibly through inhalation of vapors, rhythmic rocking, or induced hysteria, during which they delivered cryptic messages believed to be inspired by the gods. Mystery cults like those of Dionysus or Eleusis use ecstatic dancing, music, and intoxication to dissolve personal identity and facilitate contact with divine powers or sacred thoughts or sacred truths. In the context of magical and occult practices, trance is employed as a gateway to altered perception and power. Practitioners may use trance to cast spells, summon spirits, or perform astral projection. The trance allows access to unconscious or superconscious layers of awareness where symbolic correspondences intuitive insights become accessible. Techniques like gaze fixation on mirrors, flames, or mandalas, sensory deprivation, repetitive mantras, or controlled breathing are common methods for achieving these states. In certain religious traditions, trance is interpreted as a form of divine possession. This can be seen in Afro-Caribbean religions like voodoo, or voodoo. Yeah, there we go. Voodoo. They spell it weird. Or Santeria, where deities or spirits are believed to enter the body of the devotee during a ritual dance and music. The person in trance might speak in unfamiliar tongues, perform feats of strength or healing, or act out of the personality of the possessing spirit. These episodes are usually culturally sanctioned and occur within a highly structural ritual setting. Trance has also played a role in mysticism and contemplation practices. In Sufism, repetitive chanting of the name of God, dhikr, whirling, and deep meditation aim to induce ecstasy and annihilation of the ego in the divine presence. Christian mystics, too, describe trance-like states of union with God, accompanied by visions, voices, or bodily sensations. These states were often interpreted as the soul's ascent or rapture into the divine. The psychological terms, trance can be, trance can be seen as a dissociative state. Hypnosis, for example, is a form of induced trance that bypasses the critical faculties of the mind to access deeper levels of suggestion, memory, or emotional influence. Carl Jung explored how trance and active imagination could lead to communication with the unconscious, producing symbolic material for personal transformation. While the outward behaviors and beliefs around trance vary by cultures and contexts, the underlying experience involves a shift from the analytical ego-centered consciousness to a state where other forms of perception emerge. Trance can reveal suppressed memories, catalyze emotional catharsis, or generate profound insights. In magical or religious systems, it is often seen not as a deviation from reality, but as a means of touching its deeper, unseen structure. In contemporary practice, trance continues to be explored in both spiritual and therapeutic settings. It is used in guided meditation, somatic therapies, lucid dreaming, in certain forms of ritual magic. The persistence of trance across time and culture suggests it speaks to a deep-seated human need to transcend ordinary awareness and encounter dimensions of existence that lie beyond the visible or logical world. In the traditions attributed to Astonis, the legendary Persian magus, often cited in Greco-Roman sources, sacrifices and offerings played a vital role in establishing communion with supernatural entities. These acts were not simply ritual formalities, but were understood as powerful exchanges meant to align the human practitioner with divine and elemental forces, unlocking access to esoteric knowledge, protection, or magical efficacy. Ostanis was a figure associated with ancient magical and alchemical traditions. Is depicted in various later texts as emphasizing precision, purity, and intention in these ritual offerings. The sacrifices and offerings described in works associated with Astonis were not universally about blood or animal rites. Instead, they included a wide array of ritual actions, such as the burning of specific herbs, libations of wine or honey, the use of rare resins and aromatics, and occasionally the symbolic use of animal parts or correspond to planetary or elemental forces. The use of animal parts to correspond to planetary or elemental forces. These offerings were thought to provide nourishment or favor to spirits, demons, or daemons, or gods who served as intermediaries in the transmutation of matter and the elevation of the souls, or the soul. Ostanis emphasized that the practitioner must be ritually clean before making an offering. This often involved periods of fasting, purification through bathing in specifically prepared water, and the avoidance of impure thoughts or actions. The offering was seen not as a bribe, but as an act of harmonization, for the material world was refined and presented in a form that could attract or please higher beings. Incense, in particular, held a central place in these rites. Specific formulas were burned during incantations to draw down the influence of celestial powers or to invite the presence of a divine intermediary. In magical texts bearing Astonis's name or influence, the selection of the right time, usually according to astrological calculations, was as important as the material of the offering. An animal sacrifice, when described, was not arbitrary but symbolic. For instance, a white cock might be used in operations involving solar spirits, while a black goat might be associated with chthonic or underworld intelligence. However, such practices were always framed within a strict system of correspondence. The sacrificial act was seen not as an act of destruction, but as a moment where the vital essence of the offering was released and transformed into spiritual medium. Astonis also described votive offerings, crafting objects dedicated to a spirit or power in thanks or requests. These could include engraved gems, miniature figurines, or tools used in ritual magic. These items were often buried, burned, or placed in sacred locations believed to be thin places between the worlds. In this way, the practitioner honored the forces they were invoking and also left behind a trace of intention in the material realm to act as a continual petition or magnet for spiritual assistance. Another aspect of Astonis's thought was that offerings could be internal as well as external. Acts of devotion, recitation of sacred names, or the practice of ascetic disciplines were viewed as sacrifices of ego or worldly desire. Such inner offerings were seen as particularly pleasing to higher intelligence, demonstrating the practitioner's readiness to receive wisdom and carry it responsibly. If the translations attributed to Arius of Heracleopius or Heracleopolis are allegorical in nature, they likely reflect interpretive traditions common to late Hellenistic esoteric and magical schools. In this approach, allegories serve as a symbolic narrative intended to convey deeper spiritual, philosophical, or cosmological meanings beneath their surface. Epius, traditionally known as the builder of the Trojan horse, is not merely seen as a clever artisan, but may be interpreted as a figure representing the initiate or mystic who constructs a vessel for containing or channeling hidden forces. This parallels broader themes in Hermeticism and alchemical thought, where the act of constructing a vessel symbolizes the preparation of the soul or the world for spiritual transformation. The Trojan horse itself can be viewed as an outer form that conceals an inner reality. Just as the warriors were hidden within the horse, esoteric teachings often hide deeper truths beneath accessible or seemingly simple narratives. This act of concealment reflects the core idea that sacred knowledge must be protected from the uninitiated, and revealed only through stages of interpretation. In this framework, the horse becomes a metaphor for the outer shell of sacred doctrine, while the warriors represents the active transformation potential hidden within. Arius of Heracleopolis, as the transmitter of Epius' teachings, takes on the symbolic role of the spiritual mediator or interpreter. In many occult systems, the process of translation or transmission is not simply about language, but about filtering higher truths into a form comprehensible for the seeker. Arius stands as a figure bridging the gap between the hidden mysteries and human understanding, much like the intermediaries described in alchemical and magical traditions, which are necessary for any transformation from a base to a higher state. Allegories involving tools, blueprints, or construction found within these writings can be interpreted as metaphors for internal or spiritual processes. Tools may represent faculties of discernment. Architectural plans may reflect divine order, and construction itself may symbolize the deliberate shaping of the soul. These themes connect directly to Astonis's teachings that all transformation is guided by a system of mediating processes and agents. The mention of Heracleopolis also contributes symbolically. Known in Egyptian tradition as a sacred center of priestly knowledge linked to the god Harishef, the city's name evokes a setting associated with initiation and sacred learning. In Astonis's esoteric framework, sacred geometry and consecrated space are essential for spiritual work, further aligning with the symbolic role of Heracleopolis as a place of transmission. Figures and motifs in the translated allegories might also represent internal states, cosmic principles, or states of the initiatory path. A builder could symbolize willpower or creative intent. A secret mechanism might stand for divine law, and a collapsing structure might represent the breaking of illusion or ego. These interpretations are consistent with Astonis's view that both the cosmos and the human psyche are structured hierarchically and require symbolic understanding to navigate. The allegorical text associated with Arius and Epius echo the esoteric teachings of Astonis by presenting reality as multi-layered and symbolic. The function of these allegories is to encode metaphysical truths that can only be understood through contemplation and initiation. Whether through the metaphor of the horse, the role of the translator, or the language of sacred architecture, the underlying purpose remains the same: to guide the soul from ignorance to illumination through hidden wisdom. Pherecydes of Syros in his writings about Ophion, the serpent, like primordial serpent-like primordial deity, showed thematic resonance with the teachings attributed to Astanas, especially in the areas of cosmogony, divine intermediaries, and the symbolic use of serpents in esoteric traditions. Though they stem from different cultural milieux, Pherecydes' writings in early Greek philosophical myth and Astanas in the context of Persian magical and alchemical thought, they share conceptual terrain that suggests a deeper cross-cultural esoteric lineage. Pherecydes' work presented a unique cosmogony in which the universe was generated through a triad of divine principles, often interpreted as chronos, which is time, and Zos, a form of Zeus, spelled Z-A-S instead of Z-E-U-S, and Cathani, which is earth. Ophion, in some versions of the tradition that followed or were inspired by earlier Orphic and Hesiodic myths, appears as a serpent entwined around the cosmic egg, playing a role in the generation of the cosmos. This imagery closely mirrors the later Gnostic and Hermetic depictions of the serpent as both a creative and transformative force. The serpent, especially when entwined around the egg or tree, is a universal symbol of cyclical time, hidden knowledge, and transmutation, all central motifs in the system attributed to Astanas. Astanas' teachings, particularly those concerning the transformation of matter in the layered structure of reality, often employ serpentine symbolism as a metaphor for the coiled, hidden forces of nature and spirit. The serpent, in his context, can also signify the flow of divine energy through the intermediaries and the shedding of illusion as one undergoes spiritual initiation. This aligns with the Ophionic serpent's role as a primal mover, a force of creation entwined with the cosmos itself. In both systems, the serpent is not simply a beast, but a key to understanding the underlying dynamics of spiritual reality. Additionally, the idea of divine intermediaries found in Astanas' system, spiritual bridges that mediate transformation between lower and higher realms, parallels the function of primordial beings like Ophion in early cosmogonies. In some Orphic and pre-Orphic traditions, Ophion is cast down by Kronos or other emerging cosmic forces, representing the transition from primordial chaos to ordered cosmos. Astonis also described processes by which divine chaos can be refined or structured, with alchemy itself becoming a ritual dramatization of the ordering of the cosmos through divine energy or agency. Moreover, both Pherecydes and Ostanis share a belief in the symbolic and mystical structure of language and ritual. Pherecydes' prose contain invocations and sacred names, pointing towards a system of sacred utterance and names that held power, something that closely mirrors the magical invocations, divine names, and incantory formulas in writings attributed to Astonis. In both traditions, the spoken word could alter the structure of reality, reflecting a deep-seated belief in the creative and transformative power of language. Right, so that is actually pretty good. Now I want to go into Democritus after this. Now, this is where I'm going to end it. I hope you guys freaking did enjoy the reading. This is some fascinating stuff. I know that everybody, when they hear about alchemy, they don't understand that what they're hearing is like the modern version of alchemy, something that you heard about that was taught during the Middle Ages. Now, when I talk about Astonis is an ancient alchemist. This guy goes back to the time when Moses was supposed to be exiting or leaving, Egypt. So this is the ancient form of alchemy that we're talking about. And all of this, it can be read whenever you go through a lot of these alchemical texts. Now, when I come back and I do another episode, I do have plans to. I went ahead before and I started talking about Magnum Mater, and that is a good topic. But also, what I want to do, since I started talking about Astonis, is I wanted to talk about the Greek magical papyri. And I do have a translated version of that, which I am referring to. So, this next episode is going to pertain to that. There's going to be other things that I'm going to bring up too, which I thought I would talk about love magic, but I think I'm going to hold off on that until next week, because I honestly thought that, or I didn't think that I was going to be able to get through an hour show without going into that. So I'm actually kind of glad. That means I can table it. I can expand on it for next week, and then have a really, really good episode that I can go over, and I don't have to worry about doing all the research, pulling the information back up, things of that nature. So I've already got a good start on it, and I can go further with it, which is really, really good. So I hope you guys did enjoy the episode. So with that, I am going to say thank you for watching. If you did like the episode, please like, subscribe, share, make comments, give feedback. tell me what you think, heck, just come on and say hi, have a conversation with me. Doesn't even have to be about the topic. Just say hi and have a conversation with me. Like to get to know you guys, see what it is that you're interested in, things of that nature. Now, if you want to check us out, we do stream on Rumble. This episode is on Rumble Premium, but regular episodes are just regular Rumble, which is where I usually do these. I also stream on X, Twitch, Kick, YouTube, and DLive. Now, on DLive, I completely forgot to pull that up. I cannot believe I did that. But on DLive, I believe I go by Roger_Hansen. And I also go by Roger_Hansen on Kick too. So just be aware of that. Hold on. But I go by Roger_Hansen on Kick and on DLive, so you can check me out there if you want. Double check real quick. Yeah, Roger_Hansen on DLive. And on YouTube, if you want to check me out, you can check me out under The Wonderful World of Weirdness, which I'm also The Wonderful World of Weirdness on Rumble as well. But on YouTube, I'm at The Wonderful World of Weirdness, whereas on Rumble, I am just Roger Hansen at Infamous OG1973, and my channel that I have on there is The Wonderful World of Weirdness. So you can catch me there if you wish to. And like I said, I am on DLive as Roger_Hansen. Now on Twitch, I am different. I go by Infamous1969. You guys can check me out there if you wish to. Now, I don't leave copies of the shows I do on there. Those are just temporary. Once I do the stream, it's over. There's no recorded copy of it. So, all you can see there is me live at the moment, and then it's gone. So, I guess I've covered everything. That's always a pain in the butt for me, so it gets kind of annoying. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you guys have a good day. Don't know if it's evening, morning, or night for you, but whatever time of day it is, I hope you are enjoying it. And with that, I am going to mute out and then end this stream. So I will talk to you guys later. Bye.